Humans, regardless of the era they live in, always have a tendency to look outward to evaluate their own worth. In modern society, this tendency has become even more pronounced as we are surrounded by images of success, wealth, and perfection that the world portrays. We see someone living a dream life, having a brilliant career, or possessing an ideal physique. And then we turn back to ourselves, noticing our flaws and shortcomings, inevitably feeling inferior. A sense of insecurity creeps in, disappointment engulfs us, and we gradually forget our true value. Let's take a look at the story of a crow. It once lived an ordinary life until it began comparing itself to other birds. It envied the dove for its grace, admired the swan for its majestic beauty, and even wished to be as powerful and authoritative as the eagle. But through a long journey, the crow eventually realized that happiness does not come from becoming someone else, but from accepting and appreciating itself. Comparing ourselves to others is the root of unhappiness. On the other hand, true happiness only comes when we learn to be content and appreciate what we have. In this article, we will analyze 7 key lessons that can help us walk firmly on the path to peace and self-fulfillment. Lesson number 1. Why do people always tend to compare themselves with others? The human mind is like a stream of water, constantly seeking differences. From a young age, we unconsciously compare ourselves to others. Who runs faster? Who learns better? Who gets more praise from teachers? As we grow up, comparisons continue to seep into our thoughts, from appearance and social status to achievements in life. It is instinctive, yet also a double-edged sword. Comparison can be a motivation that drives people to improve. When we see someone better than us, we may take it as inspiration to strive harder. However, when comparison becomes the measure of self-worth, it gradually erodes self-esteem and breeds insecurity. Instead of focusing on our own progress, we become fixated on the positions of others. Alan was a bright student, but he never felt satisfied with himself. Every time he received his test scores, he would immediately glance at his classmates' papers. If his score was lower, he felt disappointed and discouraged, even if he had still performed well. He no longer focused on learning, but instead feared that someone would surpass him. Rather than enjoying the process of acquiring knowledge, Alan turned into a runner in an invisible race that no one but him cared about. Mark, an ambitious office worker, found himself trapped in a similar cycle. He constantly compared his salary to that of his colleagues, keeping track of who bought a new car, who traveled abroad, and who got promoted first. Instead of focusing on improving his skills and increasing his own value, Mark was consumed by jealousy. His job started to feel meaningless, even though he was actually making progress. But that progress was never enough to satisfy him, because, in his eyes, there was always someone better, richer, and more successful. As children, we easily live according to our own desires. A child does not care whether they run faster or slower than others. They simply run. But as we grow older, we start looking to the sides, unknowingly placing ourselves in an invisible competition. Sarah was a talented designer, but instead of focusing on her creativity, she constantly measured herself against others' success. She compared her work to that of her colleagues, losing confidence whenever others received praise. She spent hours scrolling through social media, checking what others in her field were doing, and gradually began to doubt herself. She forgot that what truly matters is not running as fast as someone else, but running in the right direction on her own. Epictetus's words serve as a wake-up call. How much longer will you wait to demand the best for yourself? Not the best according to someone else's standards, but the best as determined by your own clear and thoughtful judgment. Instead of looking outward, turn your gaze inward and ask yourself, have I truly lived for myself today? Comparing yourself to others is a trap. You cannot control their lives, but you can control your own. If you must compare yourself today with who you were yesterday. Ask yourself, what have I learned? In what ways have I improved? Only by focusing on your own journey can you find true peace and fulfillment. But there is a truth that few realize. The people we admire, the successful individuals we often use as benchmarks, are not as perfect as they seem. They have their own worries, their own flaws that we never see. Behind the glamorous exterior are stories only they truly know. The next lesson will reveal the truth about the people you have always wished to become. Are they truly happier than you? Is what you see really the whole picture? Epictetus's words serve as a wake-up call. How much longer will you wait to demand the best for yourself? Not the best according to someone else's standards, but the best as determined by your own clear and thoughtful judgment. Instead of looking outward, turn your gaze inward and ask yourself, have I truly lived for myself today? Comparing yourself to others is a trap. You cannot control their lives, but you can control your own. If you must compare yourself today with who you were yesterday. Ask yourself, what have I learned? In what ways have I improved? Only by focusing on your own journey can you find true peace and fulfillment. But there is a truth that few realize. The people we admire, the successful individuals we often use as benchmarks, are not as perfect as they seem. They have their own worries, their own flaws that we never see. Behind the glamorous exterior are stories only they truly know. The next lesson will reveal the truth about the people you have always wished to become. Are they truly happier than you? Is what you see really the whole picture? Lesson number 2, the truth about people we admire. Sometimes, it's hard to tell whether the people around you truly admire you. They may not say it outright, but their actions often speak louder than words. And here's the thing, admiration isn't always about grand gestures or constant flattery. In fact, the most genuine signs of admiration are sometimes subtle, even rare. Recognizing these signs can help boost your confidence and provide deeper insight into how others perceive you. But ask yourself, why do we admire others? And why does admiration sometimes make us feel insecure, unconsciously comparing ourselves to them? We often only see part of the story. It's like watching a swan glide gracefully across the water, elegant and effortless, without realizing how hard it is paddling beneath the surface. The lives of those we admire are the same. We see the glory, but not the pressure. We see success, but not sacrifices. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." We admire others because we believe they possess something we lack. But the truth is, happiness does not come from possessions or external validation. It comes from how we perceive ourselves. A social media influencer may appear in flawless photos, living a life filled with luxurious travels, high-class parties, and picture-perfect moments. They have hundreds of thousands, even millions of followers, praising them every day. But when the screen goes dark, When the camera flashes stop, they may find themselves sitting alone in an empty room, facing negative comments and the pressure to maintain the perfect image they've unintentionally created. There are nights when they lie awake, anxious that a single mistake could bring everything crashing down. They are not allowed to be tired, not allowed to fail, because the cost of fame is sacrifice. Similarly, a successful entrepreneur may own a dream collection of luxury cars, live in a grand mansion with a private pool, but can he remember the last time he had dinner with his family? While he's caught up in meetings, crucial business deals, and strategies to sustain his career, his children are growing up without him. His wife may enjoy material comfort, but perhaps she's used to lonely dinners. Behind the dazzling success, there may be an emptiness that money cannot fill. These things do not mean that they are unhappy, but they show that everyone's life has both bright and dark moments. No one has everything, and what we see from the outside is only a part of the bigger picture, a part that has been chosen to be displayed, while the hidden corners always remain out of our sight. People admire others for a simple reason. They only see what is showcased. A crow might feel inferior when comparing itself to a brightly colored parrot or a magnificent peacock. But if it knew that the parrot envied its freedom and the peacock longed for its simplicity and peace, perhaps it would no longer feel insecure. So why compare yourself to others when their stories are just as full of contradictions? Admiration should be a motivation for growth, not a reason for insecurity. If you look at someone with admiration, remember that what you see is only a fragment of the full picture. They have their own worries, their own invisible battles that you cannot see. Happiness is not about having everything, but about knowing when to feel content with what you have. Because in the end, what truly matters is not who you can become, but whether you can fully embrace and live as yourself. Lesson number 3. Each person has their own life with their own difficulties. We are all prone to falling into the trap of comparing ourselves to others. Our struggles may seem overwhelming compared to theirs. Looking at someone's circumstances, we might think, they don't have to endure as much as I do. But this way of thinking prevents us from fully understanding the complexity of the challenges each person faces. When we compare, we only see a part of their story without recognizing the pain, the losses, and the silent battles they do not reveal. Everyone has their own life, with their own difficulties. No one has a perfect life. What we see in others is only the tip of the iceberg. Someone who appears successful, wealthy, or happy does not mean they are free from worries or hidden wounds. Someone who seems to be struggling does not mean they do not experience moments of peace and gratitude. Life is not one-dimensional, and no one can fully grasp the unseen burdens of another. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "You always own the option of having no opinion." There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control. These things are not asking to be judged by you. Leave them alone. We don't need to judge the lives of others because we don't truly know what they are going through. When we see someone achieving something we haven't yet achieved, we might feel inadequate. When we see someone struggling, we might feel luckier. But these thoughts only weigh down our minds. The only thing we can control is how we perceive and live our own lives. Imagine 4 people with the same goal: to become an inspirational speaker. They all aspire to stand on stage and share profound lessons, but their journeys to get there are entirely different. The first person comes from a family with a tradition of public speaking. He has access to resources, connections, and experiences passed down from his parents. For him, stepping onto the stage is only a matter of time and refinement. The second person comes from a corporate job with no prior experience speaking in public. He must practice daily, confront his fears, and gradually build confidence. Though his journey is longer, he persists, moving forward step by step. The third person had a difficult childhood, lacked proper education, and was even ridiculed for his voice. He has to battle self-doubt, learn from free resources, and seek out even the smallest opportunities to develop his skills. The fourth person was once close to success, but a personal crisis caused him to lose everything. He has to start over from scratch and face disappointment and self-doubt, yet he refuses to give up. All four share the same goal, but each follows a unique path. No one truly has an easier road than the other. It is only the way they embrace their challenges and keep moving forward that differs. When we look at others and see only their achievements without recognizing the hardships they have endured, we unintentionally create unnecessary pressure on ourselves. Comparisons distract us from our own journey. They make us forget that, no matter how difficult things get, we still have a choice in how we respond. We can choose to face challenges with calmness and faith in our own abilities. The biggest difference between a happy person and someone who constantly feels dissatisfied is not their circumstances, but their mindset. A happy person is not someone with an easier life, but someone who appreciates their own journey without comparing it to anyone else's. What do you think about this? Have you ever felt trapped in the cycle of comparison? Share your thoughts in the comments. Lesson number 4. Comparison leads to dissatisfaction and a vicious cycle of suffering. Many people feel unhappy because they are not moving at the same pace as others. Society has imposed a precise timeline for when major life events should occur: getting married at 27, having children before 30, and securing a stable job right after graduation. We accept these standards as the norm and then place them upon ourselves as obligations. When we fail to meet them, we feel disappointed and insecure, and even start doubting ourselves. We compare our own path with the one society tells us we should follow, forgetting that everyone is different in their own way. These rigid rules cannot apply to everyone. Perhaps you have asked yourself, why does she have a fulfilling marriage while I don't? Or, why did he get a raise while I'm still stuck in the same position? Maybe your comparisons take the form of longing. I want to look like that. I want to have a house like theirs. But the truth is, there will always be someone taller, faster, stronger, or wealthier. If we keep looking at them, chasing after someone else's shadow, we will never feel satisfied. Comparison is a journey without a destination because human ambition is endless. Take a moment to reflect on the story of the crow. The crow once lived a simple life, unbothered by thoughts of who was better or worse. It soared across the sky, foraged in the fields, and rested on high branches. Its life was nothing extraordinary, but there was nothing to complain about either. It was content with what it had. Then one day, the crow saw the pigeons. The pigeons were loved by humans, fed generously, and seen in sunlit squares. They carried a grace that the crow did not possess. A fleeting thought crossed the crow's mind. I wish I were adored by humans like that. Then the crow saw the swan, a magnificent beauty gliding elegantly across the calm lake. No one could deny its gracefulness. The crow looked at its own rough legs, its sleek black feathers that did not stand out at all. It felt ordinary, Then it looked up at the vast sky, where the eagle soared in the golden sunlight, a ruler of the skies. Powerful, majestic, feared by all. The crow felt small. If only it could become an eagle, its life would be different. Day by day, the crow grew more dissatisfied. It no longer liked its feathers, no longer enjoyed its free flights. It only saw itself as not good enough. It believed that only by becoming another bird could it finally be happy. But what the crow doesn't know is that the pigeon always longs for its own freedom. The swan envies its strong wings that can fly far. Even the eagle has its own fears. If the crow knew that, would it still continue to torment itself? Marcus Aurelius once said, "How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only at what he does himself, to make it just and holy." When we stop comparing, we regain the time and energy to focus on ourselves, to do what truly matters, to progress, to live a life true to our own values. Comparison leads to dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction creates a vicious cycle of suffering. The more we compare, the more we feel lacking. The more we feel lacking, the more we chase after standards that are not our own. But even when we achieve them, we immediately set our sights on another goal, another ideal. There is no end. We always want more, but the more we have, the more we crave. If happiness only comes when we surpass someone else, then that happiness is extremely fragile, because there will always be someone better ahead of us. Instead of comparing, ask yourself, are you living according to your own expectations and standards? Or are you just trying to become someone society tells you to be? If today you stopped comparing, what would you do? If today you focused only on becoming a better version of yourself, how would you feel? These answers matter more than any comparison. So, remember that. Lesson number 5. Happiness comes from satisfaction with yourself. I often talk about balancing the balance between happiness and contentment. Happiness consists of the small moments we capture in life. A quiet morning, a warm hug, and a sincere compliment. It is the natural response of the soul when we are in harmony with the world around us. But happiness is also fragile, easily influenced by circumstances. A bad day can take away our sense of joy. A single criticism can make us doubt ourselves. That is why, if we only chase happiness, we will always be swayed by external changes. Contentment, on the other hand, is something different. It is deeper, independent of the outside world, and comes from within us. It is the sense of peace that comes from knowing we are doing the right thing, even when the results are not immediate. An artist who spends years refining his skills may not always feel happy, but he continues because he knows he is on the right path. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Marcus Aurelius. Very few things are truly necessary for a happy life, because everything lies in the way we think. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that happiness does not come from what we have, but from how we perceive what we already possess. When a crow realizes the vast sky is its true value, it finally feels free. When a person understands that their life does not need to be measured by others' standards, they finally feel truly happy. We often make ourselves suffer by comparing ourselves to others, unintentionally stealing our own inner peace. A hard-working employee, despite always doing his job well, may feel disappointed upon discovering that his colleague earns a higher salary. He begins to doubt his own worth, wondering if he is being undervalued. This comparison makes him forget why he chose this job in the first place, because it gives him a sense of purpose, because he loves what he does, and because it helps him grow each day. If he focuses on the value he creates rather than the numbers on his paycheck, he will realize that success is not measured solely by money, but also by dedication and inner satisfaction. A woman may feel not beautiful enough when she sees perfect photos on social media, flawless skin, an ideal body, and a luxurious lifestyle. She begins to doubt her natural beauty, forgetting that those images are merely the product of angles, lighting, and editing. But when she pauses and looks in the mirror with appreciation, she will realize that true beauty does not lie in society's standards, but in confidence and self-acceptance. When we stop comparing, we begin to live more fully. Contentment does not mean giving up. It means embracing the present with peace. It is not resignation, but an understanding that we do not need to become someone else to be happy. When we are no longer affected by meaningless comparisons, we can focus on our own journey where every step holds significance. Comparison only brings insecurity, but gratitude and appreciation can change everything. When we are grateful, we no longer feel lacking. When we appreciate what we have, we realize that life is already abundant. And that is exactly what we will talk about next. Gratitude and cherishing what we have. Lesson number 6. Be grateful and appreciate what you have. If we are honest with ourselves, most of the time, we don't go around thinking about how lucky we are to have good things happening in our lives, like simply being alive. Occasionally, we experience moments of realization about how fortunate we are to have everything we do, our health, family, and friends. It feels like a refreshing wave of gratitude washing over me, cleansing my worries, stress, and troubles. However, gratitude is not usually our natural response. We easily compare ourselves to others, looking at their success and feeling inadequate, observing their lives and feeling lacking. But when we get caught up in this cycle of comparison, we forget an important truth. Everything we truly need is already right in front of us. Wealth is not about having a lot of possessions, but about having fewer desires. This is a truth we only truly understand when we practice gratitude. If you are never satisfied with what you have, no matter how much you achieve, you will never be happy. When we pause and appreciate what we already have, we shift from a state of lack to a state of abundance. Nick Vujicic was born without arms or legs, something that, for many, could feel like a lifelong sentence of despair. From a young age, he faced pitying looks, ridicule, and painful questions. Why was I born this way? What can I do in this life? At times, Nick felt like a burden to his family, unable to do simple things like grasp objects, walk, or play sports like other children. Loneliness and despair once consumed his mind. But instead of letting the unfairness of fate define his life, Nick chose gratitude. He began to focus on what he had rather than what he lacked. He was grateful to be born into a loving family, where his parents never treated him as useless. He was thankful for having a sharp mind, a heart full of love, and an unyielding spirit that refused to surrender to adversity. From that gratitude, Nick decided to turn his life into a symbol of resilience. He learned to be independent, take care of himself, and even swim, skateboard, and play soccer using his body. More importantly, he became a motivational speaker, spreading the message that all limitations exist only in our minds. Millions of people around the world have been transformed by his story. If a man without arms and legs like Nick can still find reasons to be grateful and live a fulfilling life, then why do we, who have complete bodies, opportunities, and abilities, allow comparisons to make us unhappy? Comparison only leads to dissatisfaction, but gratitude opens the door to peace. When you practice gratitude, even the smallest things can bring you joy. A morning filled with warm sunlight, a meal with family, and a meaningful conversation, all of these are gifts. And when you realize how much you have to be grateful for, you won't have time to compare yourself to anyone else. Ask yourself, what are you grateful for today? Take a moment to reflect on all the wonderful things you have. If you truly want to change your life, make gratitude a daily habit. Now, I want to hear from you. Comment below with the phrase, "Practice gratitude." This is not just a statement, it's a commitment. A commitment to seeing life through grateful eyes, to appreciating what you have instead of comparing yourself to others. Because, as Marcus Aurelius once wrote, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Lesson number 7. How to stop comparing yourself to others. How to stop comparing yourself to others. If you compare others' strengths to your weaknesses, how do you think you'll evaluate yourself? And do you think this will make you feel good? The funny thing is that most of us do this from time to time, and some of us do it quite often. This is a guaranteed recipe for losing confidence and feeling unhappy. But it's also not very helpful. There's one truth you need to accept. Everyone has their own path. No one is born at the same starting line, and no one is walking the same journey. Comparing yourself to others is like using their map to navigate your life. It just doesn't make sense. If one person is climbing a mountain while another is swimming across the ocean, is it fair to judge who is better? Marcus Aurelius once said, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions." Don't let your ambitions be overshadowed by someone else's success. If you keep looking to the side, you won't be able to focus on the road ahead. You don't need to be better than anyone else. You just need to be better than who you were yesterday. Instead of looking at others' achievements, focus on your own growth. You can control what you do, but you cannot control others. If someone runs faster than you, it's because they have trained in their own way. Use that energy to improve yourself rather than feeling inferior. Journaling is not only a way to record your daily accomplishments, but also a powerful tool for connecting with yourself. When you sit down and write about the positive things in your life, you're not only reminding yourself of your progress, no matter how small, but also creating a space for self-reflection and appreciation. It could be something as simple as staying focused on a task without distractions, completing a difficult assignment, or allowing yourself to rest without guilt. When you look back at your words after a week, a month, or a year, you'll see that your journey is meaningful and doesn't need to resemble anyone else's to be valuable. Additionally, gratitude is a powerful weapon against the cycle of comparison. When you focus on what you already have, you'll see abundance instead of lack. Try writing down 3 things you're grateful for every day, perhaps a trustworthy friend, a new opportunity, or simply a beautiful day. When you shift your perspective from "I am not enough" to "I already have so much," you'll stop craving what others possess and start appreciating your own life. Finally, set personal goals rather than chasing societal expectations. The important thing is not whether you are ahead of others, but whether you are moving forward. Ask yourself, what version of myself do I want to become? What aspects of my life do I want to improve? When you have a clear goal, you'll be less caught up in meaningless comparisons and more focused on your own journey. True success is not about reaching someone else's position. It's about progressing beyond who you were yesterday. When you stop comparing, you not only regain your inner peace, but also build a stronger version of yourself. Remember, you are not someone else, and that's what makes you special. Life is not a race with anyone but yourself. If you keep looking at others, you will forget the most important thing, your own journey. The story of the crow is clear proof. It used to think it was the most unfortunate bird until it realized that every species has its own difficulties. Happiness does not come from having everything, but from appreciating what you have. When you stop comparing, you will feel lighter, freer, and more peaceful. You do not need to be better than anyone. You just need to be yourself, better every day. Put your hand on your chest, take a deep breath, and remind yourself, I do not compare myself to anyone. If you agree with this, leave a comment below. I do not compare myself to anyone, to affirm your determination. If you find this video useful, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on other valuable content about Stoic philosophy. Stay tuned for the next videos that appear on the screen as your journey of self-development continues. Thank you for joining us, and see you in the next video.